The power of consistent discipline. Most people believe life changes in dramatic moments, a sudden breakthrough, a lucky opportunity, one powerful decision that transforms everything overnight. But the truth is quieter than that. Life rarely changes in explosions. It changes in small, repeated steps. Steps so small that most people ignore them. Steps so ordinary that they seem insignificant. Until one day, they are not. Because the future you dream about, the confident version of yourself, the disciplined version, the successful version, is not built in one heroic act. It is built in daily discipline. Tiny choices repeated again and again. Welcome to this audiobook, Small Steps That Change Your Life, The Power of Consistent Discipline. In this journey, we are not chasing motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It appears when the weather is good, when energy is high, when the world feels kind. But life does not wait for those moments. Real progress happens on ordinary days. The days when you are tired, the days when nothing exciting happens, the days when quitting would be easy. Those days shape everything. In this audiobook, you will discover something powerful. The people who transform their lives are not always the most talented. They are the most consistent. You will learn how tiny actions compound into extraordinary change, why discipline is stronger than motivation, how to break the invisible habits that keep people stuck, how to build a mind that shows up even when it doesn't feel like it, and how to design a life where progress becomes automatic. Because the real secret of success is not intensity. It is consistency. And here is a sentence worth remembering from the very beginning. Big lives are built from small promises kept daily. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself something honestly. How many times have you promised yourself change? I'll start tomorrow. I'll be more disciplined. This time, I'll stay consistent. At first, the excitement is real. You make plans. You feel motivated. You imagine the new version of yourself. But then life happens. A busy week, a stressful day, a moment of doubt. And slowly, the new habits disappear, not because you are weak, not because you lack ambition, but because no one taught you the most important truth about transformation. Change is not about intensity, it is about repetition. Just like a river slowly carving a canyon, just like a seed becoming a forest, just like a muscle growing through repeated strain. Progress is built through daily motion. And here is the paradox. Small steps feel insignificant in the moment, but over time, they become unstoppable. 5 minutes of reading every day, 10 minutes of learning, one disciplined decision repeated again and again. At first, nothing seems to change. Then something shifts. Momentum appears, confidence grows, and suddenly, the life you once imagined begins to take shape. But before we talk about discipline, before we talk about habits, we must confront the biggest misunderstanding about success, because the world has convinced millions of people to chase the wrong thing. Motivation. Motivation feels powerful. It feels exciting. But motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. And the people who master discipline discover something extraordinary. They no longer need motivation. They simply show up. Which leads us to the first lesson of this audiobook. A lesson that changes how you approach every goal in your life. Why the most successful people in the world do not rely on motivation at all. And once you understand this, you will never wait to feel ready again. Part 2. The motivation myth. Why waiting to feel ready keeps people stuck. there is a dangerous lie that most people believe about success. A lie that sounds reasonable. A lie that feels comforting, but a lie that quietly destroys progress. The lie is this: I'll start when I feel motivated. Think about how often this thought appears. I'll start working out when I feel inspired. I'll start the project when I feel ready. I'll wake up early when I feel energized. But here is the reality that most people never discover. Motivation rarely appears before action. It appears after action. Motivation is not the engine. It is the reward. This misunderstanding traps millions of people in a cycle that looks like progress but produces nothing. They wait, they prepare, they watch videos, they plan their goals, they imagine success. But the real work never begins because they are waiting for a feeling that rarely arrives. And every day they wait, something invisible happens. Confidence begins to shrink. Self-trust begins to fade. The promise they made to themselves slowly becomes another forgotten intention. Now, imagine a different approach. Instead of asking, "Do I feel motivated today?" you ask a different question. What is the smallest action I can take right now? Not the perfect action, not the big action, just the next step. 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of practice, one small improvement. At first, it feels almost meaningless, but something powerful happens when you begin. Your brain notices. Your mind says, "I move forward." That tiny action creates momentum, and momentum creates energy. Suddenly, motivation appears, not before action, because of action. This is one of the greatest secrets of disciplined people. They do not wait to feel motivated. They move first. Look at the people who accomplish extraordinary things. Athletes, writers, entrepreneurs, scientists. Do you think they wake up every morning full of passion and excitement? Of course not. They experience doubt, fatigue, frustration. But they show up anyway, because they understand something simple. Consistency beats emotion. Emotion changes. Commitment stays. Think of motivation like a spark. It burns brightly for a moment, but if you rely only on sparks, the fire never lasts. Discipline is different. Discipline builds a steady flame, a flame that continues burning even when the wind changes. And here is something fascinating. When you act consistently, even when motivation is low, you begin building a new relationship with yourself, a relationship based on trust. Every time you keep a small promise, your mind notices. Every time you show up despite resistance, your confidence grows. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that says, "I know I can rely on myself." This kind of self-trust changes everything, because the moment you trust yourself, you stop depending on outside encouragement. You stop needing perfect conditions. You stop negotiating with your own excuses. Instead, you develop a simple rule. I show up, not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency is the real multiplier of success. Imagine two people starting the same goal. One works intensely for 3 days, then stops. The other works for 10 minutes every day for a year. At first, the intense effort looks impressive, but time rewards the second person, because repetition builds mastery. Small steps compound. Just like money grows through compound interest, small actions grow through compound effort, day by day, week by week, year by year, until the difference becomes impossible to ignore. But there is another obstacle that quietly destroys consistency, a force that whispers, "You can start tomorrow." It feels harmless, but it is responsible for more abandoned dreams than almost anything else. Its name is procrastination, and if you do not understand how it works, it will steal years of your life without you even noticing. In the next chapter, we will expose this invisible habit, why intelligent people procrastinate, why willpower alone is not enough to defeat it, and how one simple method can break the cycle instantly. Because once you understand procrastination, you stop delaying your future. Dear friend, allow me to interrupt for a moment. Our team is currently working on improving our channel and videos. May we ask you, dear viewer, what you like about our videos, or perhaps what you would like to see in our videos? Perhaps a different video format or a different format for presenting audiobooks. Be skeptical. Your skeptical expert opinion can help us improve our videos even more. Thank you very much. We look forward to your comments under the video. Let's continue. Part 3. The Invisible Enemy. How procrastination quietly steals your future. There is an enemy of progress that almost everyone faces. It doesn't shout. It doesn't appear dramatic. It simply whispers one sentence: you can do it tomorrow. And most of the time, tomorrow never arrives. Procrastination is not loud like failure. It is quiet. It hides inside reasonable thoughts. I'll start when I'm more prepared. I just need a little more time. Next week will be better. Each excuse feels logical. But together, they create a powerful trap. Because every day you delay, something important happens inside your mind. You slowly begin to believe that your goals are optional. Promises lose weight. Dreams lose urgency. And without urgency, progress disappears. The dangerous part is that procrastination rarely feels like a problem in the moment. It feels comfortable. It feels safe. You avoid the difficult task. You choose the easier activity. You scroll. You distract yourself. You postpone. And the mind rewards you with a small sense of relief. But relief is not progress. And over time, that relief becomes a habit. Now, here's something important to understand. Procrastination is not laziness. Most people who procrastinate are not lazy. They are overwhelmed, or uncertain, or afraid of failing. When a task feels too large or too difficult, the brain looks for escape. This is a natural survival mechanism. Your mind is trying to protect you from discomfort. But here is the problem. Growth always requires discomfort. Learning something new is uncomfortable. Building discipline is uncomfortable. Improving your life means stepping beyond the familiar. So if your mind avoids discomfort automatically, progress becomes impossible. This is why so many people feel stuck. Not because they lack ambition, but because they have not learned how to reduce resistance. Let me show you something powerful. Imagine standing in front of a huge mountain. You tell yourself, I have to climb the entire mountain today. Immediately, your brain resists. The task feels overwhelming. Your mind searches for escape. Now imagine a different instruction. Just take one step. That feels manageable. One step does not feel threatening. But once the first step is taken, the second becomes easier, and the third, and the fourth. Suddenly, the mountain is no longer impossible. This simple principle changes everything. Instead of asking, how do I finish this entire project? Ask, what is the smallest step I can take right now? Not tomorrow, not later. Now, 2 minutes of effort, 5 minutes of work, one tiny action. Most people underestimate the power of beginning because starting breaks the resistance. Once you begin, momentum takes over. Your brain shifts from avoidance to engagement. Suddenly, the task feels possible. This is why one of the most effective strategies for defeating procrastination is incredibly simple. The 5-minute rule. Tell yourself, I will work on this for 5 minutes. That's it. No pressure, no commitment beyond 5 minutes. Just start. Something interesting happens when you do this. Most of the time, once those 5 minutes pass, you keep going. Because the hardest part of any task is not the work. It is the beginning. Now let's talk about another hidden cause of procrastination. Perfectionism. Many people delay starting because they want everything to be perfect. The perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions. But perfection is a dangerous illusion because perfection delays progress. And progress is what actually creates excellence. Every successful person begins imperfectly. Writers produce terrible first drafts. Athletes make mistakes during training. Entrepreneurs launch imperfect ideas. Progress improves what perfection delays. So instead of asking, how can I do this perfectly? Ask, how can I do this imperfectly today? Because imperfect action beats perfect hesitation every time. Now imagine your life 1 year from today. 2 possible versions. In the first version, you keep postponing things. You keep waiting for motivation. You keep delaying your goals. A year passes. Your dreams remain exactly where they started. In the second version, you begin today. You take small steps every day. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. A year passes, and suddenly you are no longer the same person. The difference between these two futures is not talent. It is not intelligence. It is simply consistent action. And once you understand this, you stop asking, when should I start? Because the answer becomes obvious now. But starting once is not enough. The real challenge is continuing when the excitement disappears. Because every journey begins with enthusiasm, but only discipline keeps it moving. Which leads us to the next chapter, how to train your mind so that showing up becomes automatic, how discipline becomes stronger than mood, and how small habits begin shaping your identity. Because once discipline becomes part of who you are, consistency stops feeling difficult. It becomes natural. Part 4. Discipline is a skill, training the mind to show up. There is a moment in every journey where excitement disappears. The beginning is always powerful. You feel inspired. You feel determined. You believe change is finally happening. But then something subtle happens. Energy drops. Progress feels slow. The excitement that once carried you forward begins to fade. This is the moment where most people stop. Not because they failed, but because they misunderstood something important. They believed motivation would carry them all the way, but motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent, and discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you train, just like a muscle. At first, it feels weak, uncomfortable, even exhausting. But every time you use it, it grows stronger. Think about someone who has never exercised before. The first workout feels difficult. The body resists. But after weeks of repetition, something changes. What once felt impossible becomes normal. The same is true for discipline. The first time you force yourself to wake up early, it feels unnatural. The first time you work while others relax, it feels difficult. The first time you push through discomfort, your mind protests. But every time you follow through, you are strengthening a powerful internal muscle, the muscle of commitment. And here is the key insight. Discipline becomes easier with repetition. At first, you must force it. Later, it becomes part of your identity. You are no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You become someone who is disciplined. Identity is powerful because once something becomes part of who you are, you no longer debate it. A runner doesn't ask, "Should I run today?" Running is simply what they do. A writer does not ask, "Should I write?" Writing is part of their identity. And disciplined people do not negotiate with their habits. They simply show up. But building this identity requires one important shift. Instead of focusing on outcomes, focus on process. Most people chase outcomes. I want to lose weight. I want to write a book. I want to start a business. Those goals are inspiring, but goals alone are not enough because goals live in the future. Discipline lives in the present. The real question is not, what result do I want? The real question is, what system will produce that result? Instead of saying, I want to write a book, say, I will write for 20 minutes every morning. Instead of saying, I want to get in shape, say, I will exercise every day at 7 a.m. Goals inspire. Systems transform. When you create a system, success stops depending on motivation. It becomes part of your routine. And routines remove decision fatigue. Think about how many decisions you make every day. What to eat, what to wear, what to do first. Your brain becomes tired from constant choices. But when something becomes routine, the decision disappears. You do not debate brushing your teeth. You simply do it. Discipline works the same way. The more automatic your habits become, the less energy they require. This is why successful people simplify their lives. They create routines that protect their discipline. Morning rituals, daily schedules, focused work periods. These structures remove the need for motivation. Now here is another powerful truth. Your environment shapes your discipline more than your willpower. If your phone is constantly beside you, distractions will win. If your workspace is chaotic, focus becomes difficult. If your surroundings encourage laziness, discipline feels impossible. So disciplined people design their environment carefully. They remove distractions. They prepare their workspace. They place tools where action becomes easier. Instead of relying on willpower, they create systems that support focus. And when discipline becomes easier, consistency becomes natural. But even with strong systems, there will be days when resistance appears. Days when the mind whispers, skip it today. Take a break. You deserve comfort. Those moments are the real test. Because discipline is not built on easy days. It is built on the days when quitting feels reasonable, the days when showing up feels inconvenient, and on those days, one sentence becomes powerful. This is who I am, not because it feels good, but because it is part of your identity. You show up because that is the person you decided to become. And over time, these repeated actions begin creating something extraordinary. Momentum. Momentum is invisible at first, but once it builds, it becomes unstoppable. Which leads us to the next chapter, the hidden power of tiny daily habits, why the smallest actions shape the biggest transformations, and how small steps can quietly change the direction of your entire life. Part 5. The compound effect of small habits. How tiny actions quietly transform your life. There is a reason small habits feel unimportant. They are quiet. They do not produce dramatic results overnight. Reading 10 pages does not make you an expert tomorrow. 10 push-ups do not transform your body in a week. 10 minutes of learning does not change your career instantly. Because the power of small habits is invisible in the beginning. And that is exactly why most people abandon them. They expect quick change, immediate reward, instant proof that their effort is working. But life rarely works that way. Real transformation happens slowly, almost too slowly to notice. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. For days, nothing appears. Then weeks pass, still nothing visible. If you judged progress only by what you could see above the soil, you might believe nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, something powerful is taking place. Roots are growing. The foundation is forming. And when the moment is right, the plant finally breaks through the soil. Habits grow the same way. The early stages of discipline feel invisible. But beneath the surface, your identity is changing. Your mind is adapting. Your standards are rising. And one day, something shifts. You notice it quietly. You feel stronger, more focused, more capable. And the habits that once felt difficult now feel normal. This phenomenon is often called the compound effect. Just like money growing through compound interest, small actions accumulate over time. One small action, repeated daily, becomes a powerful force. Let's look at a simple example. If you improve just 1% every day, something extraordinary happens. That tiny improvement compounds, day after day, week after week, year after year. At the end of a year, you are not just slightly better. You are dramatically transformed. But there is another side to compounding. Small negative habits also compound. Skipping a workout once seems harmless. Procrastinating today feels insignificant. Choosing comfort over growth appears minor. But repeated over time, these choices shape your future. Because every action is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you read daily, you vote to become a learner. When you exercise regularly, you vote to become healthy. When you work consistently, you vote to become disciplined. Identity is built through repeated behavior, not through words, not through intentions. Through action, every small step says, "This is who I am." Now here is something interesting. The difference between successful people and everyone else is often incredibly small. They simply repeat the right habits longer. They stay consistent when others quit. They keep moving when progress feels slow. And because most people underestimate small actions, they abandon them before the results appear. But disciplined individuals understand the long game. They know that success is rarely dramatic. It is built quietly, day by day, decision by decision. Now imagine two versions of your future. The first version follows the same habits you have today. Small choices repeated automatically. A year passes, 5 years pass, 10 years pass. Where does that path lead? Now imagine the second version. You make one small improvement, just one. Maybe you wake up earlier. Maybe you read daily. Maybe you spend 10 minutes improving a skill. At first, the change feels tiny, but time multiplies it. 1 year later, you are more knowledgeable, more disciplined, more capable. 5 years later, the difference becomes dramatic. 10 years later, you are living a completely different life, not because of one giant decision, because of thousands of small ones. This is the real power of consistent discipline, and once you understand it, something important happens. You stop underestimating small actions. You begin respecting them, because the smallest habits shape the biggest outcomes. But there is another factor that determines whether habits survive: the environment you live in. Your surroundings influence your behavior more than you realize. And if your environment encourages distraction, consistency becomes incredibly difficult. In the next chapter, we will explore the hidden power of environment. why willpower alone is not enough, and how designing your surroundings can make discipline almost automatic. Because sometimes the difference between success and failure is not effort, it is environment. Part 6. Design your environment. Why your surroundings shape your discipline. Most people believe discipline is only about willpower. They think success depends on how strong they are mentally. So when they struggle to stay consistent, they blame themselves. I'm just not disciplined enough. But here is the truth most people never realize. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your willpower does. The world around you constantly sends signals to your brain. Those signals influence your habits, your focus, your decisions, and if your environment encourages distraction, discipline becomes an uphill battle. Imagine trying to eat healthy while surrounded by junk food. Imagine trying to study while your phone constantly lights up with notifications. Imagine trying to stay focused while your workspace is chaotic. Even the strongest mind will struggle in the wrong environment. But here is the powerful insight. When you change your environment, discipline becomes easier because you remove the obstacles before they appear. Think about how professional athletes train. They do not rely only on motivation. They create environments designed for success. Training schedules, structured routines, focused spaces. Every element of their environment supports the behavior they want. You can do the same in your own life. Start by asking a simple question. What in my environment is making discipline harder? Maybe it is your phone. Notifications pulling your attention every few minutes. Maybe it is social media tabs open on your computer. Maybe it is a cluttered workspace that invites distraction. These small details matter more than you think, because your brain is constantly responding to cues, and if the cue encourages distraction, your habit will follow. Now, imagine a different environment. Your phone is placed out of reach. Notifications are turned off. Your desk is clean and organized. The tools you need are ready. Suddenly, focus becomes easier. Not because you suddenly gained more willpower, but because the environment supports your behavior. Here is a simple rule disciplined people follow. Make good habits easy. Make bad habits difficult. If you want to read more, place books where you can see them. If you want to exercise, prepare your workout clothes the night before. If you want to write, open your document before you begin your day. Small adjustments remove friction. And when friction disappears, habits become natural. Now let's look at the opposite side. If you want to reduce a bad habit, increase the difficulty. Place distractions further away. Log out of social media. Remove apps that waste your time. Create barriers between you and the behavior you want to avoid. Because every additional step reduces temptation. Your brain prefers the easiest option. So design your environment so the easiest option is the one that helps you grow. Now here is another powerful factor. The people around you. Your social environment shapes your behavior even more than your physical space. If everyone around you procrastinates, procrastination becomes normal. If everyone around you complains, negativity spreads. But when you surround yourself with disciplined people, something interesting happens. Their habits influence yours. Their standards raise your standards. Their mindset expands what you believe is possible. You begin seeing discipline as normal. Consistency becomes part of your culture, and culture is powerful because humans naturally adapt to their surroundings. This is why successful people carefully choose their environment. The books they read, the content they consume, the conversations they participate in. Everything becomes intentional, not restrictive, intentional. Now imagine the impact of living in an environment designed for growth. Your space encourages focus. Your habits are supported by routine. Your surroundings remove distractions. Your circle encourages discipline. Suddenly, consistency becomes easier, and the progress you once struggled for begins happening naturally. But even with the right environment, another challenge appears on the journey: resistance, the invisible force that appears whenever you attempt something meaningful, the voice that whispers, "This is too hard. Maybe later. You deserve a break." Resistance appears for everyone, even the most disciplined people. But the difference is they know how to push through it. In the next chapter, we will explore the nature of resistance, why your mind tries to stop you when growth begins, and how to move forward even when everything inside you says stop. Because the ability to overcome resistance is what separates intention from transformation. Part 7. The Resistance Barrier. Why Growth Always Feels Uncomfortable. There is a moment that appears whenever you try to improve your life. It arrives quietly, sometimes as doubt, sometimes as fatigue, sometimes as a strange feeling that says, "Maybe I'll do this later." This moment is called resistance. Resistance is the invisible force that appears whenever you move toward growth. It is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something important is happening. Your mind is designed to protect you. It prefers comfort. It prefers familiarity. It prefers routines that require little effort. So whenever you attempt to change your behavior, your brain reacts. It asks, "Why are we doing something difficult? Why leave the comfortable path? Why risk failure?" Resistance is simply your mind trying to keep things the same. But growth never happens inside comfort. Every meaningful improvement in life requires stepping beyond what is familiar, learning a new skill, starting a business, building discipline. Each of these actions challenges your current identity, and your brain resists identity change. But here is the important truth. Resistance appears strongest at the beginning, the moment before you start, the moment when you hesitate, the moment when the task still feels large and intimidating. But once you begin, something interesting happens. Resistance weakens. Think about exercise. The hardest part is often putting on your shoes and leaving the house. But once the workout begins, your body adapts. Momentum takes over. The same pattern appears in every area of life. Starting is the barrier. Action dissolves resistance. This is why disciplined people follow a simple rule. Start before you feel ready. Do not wait for perfect confidence. Do not wait for the perfect mood. Do not wait until everything feels comfortable. Start anyway, even if the first step feels small, even if the progress feels slow. Because starting breaks the illusion that the task is impossible. Now here's another trick resistance uses. It disguises itself as reasonable logic. Your mind may say, "I'm tired today. I'll do better tomorrow. I just need a little more preparation." Each excuse sounds believable, but if you listen carefully, you will notice a pattern. The excuses always lead to the same outcome: delay. And delay slowly weakens your confidence, because every time you postpone action, your mind learns something. It learns that your promises are negotiable. But every time you act despite resistance, your mind learns something different. It learns that you are reliable, and reliability is the foundation of discipline. Now imagine two people facing resistance. The first person listens to it. They delay. They justify. They postpone their goals. The second person notices resistance but acts anyway. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. Over time, the difference between these two individuals becomes enormous because resistance is a gatekeeper. It stands at the entrance of every meaningful achievement, and the people who succeed are simply the ones who walk through it repeatedly. Now here is the encouraging part. Resistance never completely disappears. Even successful people experience it. Athletes feel it before training. Writers feel it before starting a new page. Entrepreneurs feel it before making difficult decisions. But they have trained themselves to respond differently. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" they ask, "Is this part of the process?" If the answer is yes, they move forward because the process is what produces results. And disciplined people fall in love with the process, not the outcome, not the applause, the process. They understand something powerful. The daily actions are where life actually happens, the routines, the repetition, the quiet moments when nobody is watching. That is where character is built. Now pause for a moment and imagine something. Your future is not created by your biggest decisions. It is created by your daily responses to resistance. Every time resistance appears, you are choosing who you become, the person who delays or the person who moves forward. And each choice builds identity, which brings us to an important question. How do you stay consistent when life becomes chaotic? Because discipline is easy when everything is calm. But real life is messy. Unexpected problems appear, schedules change, energy disappears, and on those days, consistency becomes difficult. In the next chapter, we will explore the secret to maintaining discipline during difficult moments, how resilient people stay consistent even when life becomes unpredictable, and why discipline during chaos creates the greatest transformation of all. Because the real power of discipline is revealed when things go wrong. Part 8. Discipline during chaos. How to stay consistent. When life gets difficult, it is easy to be disciplined when everything's going well. When your schedule is clear, when your energy is high, when life feels organized, those are the days when progress feels natural. But those days are not what define your future. Your future is defined by the days when things fall apart, the days when you feel exhausted, the days when problems appear unexpectedly, the days when you question whether continuing is even worth it. Those days are where discipline becomes real, because anyone can work when conditions are perfect. But the people who transform their lives are the ones who continue when conditions are imperfect. Think about this for a moment. Life will never remain perfectly organized. There will always be interruptions, unexpected responsibilities, stressful situations, moments when you feel mentally drained. If your discipline depends on perfect conditions, it will collapse every time life becomes unpredictable. That is why resilient people follow a different rule. They aim for consistency, not perfection. Perfection demands ideal circumstances. Consistency adapts to reality. Maybe you plan to exercise for an hour, but today you only have 15 minutes. The disciplined person still moves. Maybe you plan to study for 2 hours, but today your mind feels overwhelmed. The disciplined person still studies for 10 minutes because something powerful happens when you refuse to break the chain. The habit remains alive. Momentum stays intact, and even the smallest action protects your identity. Now imagine the opposite situation. You skip one day, then another. Soon the habit disappears entirely, not because you failed dramatically, but because the chain was broken. Discipline thrives on continuity. Even small actions preserve it. This is why some of the most successful individuals follow a simple principle: never miss twice. Missing once is human. Life happens. Schedules change. Energy fluctuates. But missing twice begins forming a pattern. So if you miss a workout today, you show up tomorrow. If you skip a task today, you begin again the next day. This rule protects momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. Once momentum builds, progress accelerates. Actions feel easier, habits become automatic, and discipline stops feeling like effort. But there is another important skill required during difficult moments: self-compassion. Many people destroy their discipline because they punish themselves too harshly. They miss one day and say, "I failed. I'm not consistent. I'll never change." But this mindset creates shame, and shame kills progress. Disciplined individuals approach setbacks differently. They see mistakes as part of the process, not proof of weakness. They understand something important. Progress is rarely linear. It moves forward, then backward, then forward again. But as long as the general direction remains positive, transformation continues. Think about learning any new skill, playing an instrument, learning a language, building physical strength. There are always setbacks, moments when progress feels slow, moments when improvement seems invisible. But the people who succeed are not the ones who avoid setbacks. They are the ones who return after setbacks. Returning is the real discipline, because discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Now imagine your life 5 years from now, not defined by a single dramatic effort, but by small acts of persistence repeated thousands of times. Returning to your habits, returning to your goals, returning to your process. Each return strengthens your character. Each return builds resilience. Each return proves something powerful, that you are the kind of person who continues, and this identity changes everything. Because once persistence becomes part of who you are, success becomes inevitable, not immediate, but inevitable. Now, we must explore another important element of consistent discipline: the voice inside your mind, the internal dialogue that either strengthens your actions or weakens them. Because the words you repeat to yourself shape the decisions you make. And if you do not train your inner voice, it will often work against you. In the next chapter, we will explore the psychology of self-talk, how the stories you tell yourself shape your discipline, and how one simple shift in language can transform your behavior completely. Because the most powerful conversations in your life are the ones you have with yourself. Part 9. The voice inside your head, training your inner dialogue. Every person carries a voice inside their mind. It speaks constantly, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly. It comments on your actions. It judges your progress. It reacts to your failures. And most people never realize how powerful this voice truly is, because the words you repeat to yourself shape your behavior. They shape your confidence. They shape your discipline. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. Both feel tired. Both feel resistance. But their inner voices are different. The first person hears, "I'm too exhausted today. I'll never stay consistent. I always fall behind." The second person hears something different. "This is part of the process. Small progress still counts. I keep moving forward. The situation is the same, but the response is different, and that difference shapes their future." because your mind listens to what you repeatedly tell it. If you constantly say, "I lack discipline," your brain begins believing that identity. If you constantly say, "I always quit," your behavior begins following that belief. But the opposite is also true. If you begin telling yourself, "I follow through, I show up, I am becoming consistent," your mind begins adapting to that identity. This is not blind positivity, it is identity training. Every sentence you repeat is a signal to your brain, a signal about who you believe you are. And once your brain accepts an identity, it begins aligning your actions with it. This is why disciplined people are careful with their self-talk. They do not speak to themselves like enemies. They speak like coaches, encouraging, directing, correcting. Think about a coach guiding an athlete. A good coach does not say, "You're terrible. You'll never improve." Instead, they say, "Focus here. Adjust this. Keep going." Your inner voice should work the same way, guiding your behavior instead of destroying your confidence. Now, here is a powerful exercise. Pay attention to your internal dialogue for one day. Notice what your mind says when things become difficult. Notice the automatic thoughts. Do they weaken you or strengthen you? Most people discover something surprising. Their inner voice is far more negative than they realized. Years of doubt, years of criticism, years of limiting beliefs. But the good news is this voice can be retrained, just like a muscle, just like discipline. Every time a negative thought appears, pause. Ask yourself a simple question. Is this helping me move forward? If the answer is no, replace the thought. Not with unrealistic optimism, but with constructive direction. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I will take the next step." Instead of saying, "This is too hard," say, "This is part of growth." Over time, this shift changes everything because your mind stops acting like an obstacle. It becomes an ally. And when your inner voice supports your discipline, consistency becomes easier. But there is another powerful concept connected to self-talk: identity. Because lasting change does not happen when you focus only on what you do. It happens when you change who you believe you are. If you believe you are inconsistent, your habits will reflect that belief. But if you begin seeing yourself as disciplined, your behavior begins aligning with that identity. The transformation does not happen instantly, but every action reinforces it. Every small step becomes proof. Proof that the new identity is real, which leads us to the next chapter: the science of identity-based discipline. How the smallest habits reshape the way you see yourself, and why the most powerful form of motivation comes from identity itself. Because once you become the person who shows up, consistency stops feeling like effort. It becomes part of who you are. Part 10. Identity. Becoming the person who shows up. Why who you believe you are changes everything. There is a hidden force behind every habit you have, a force stronger than motivation, stronger than willpower. It is called identity. Identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are, not what you wish to become, but what you believe to be true about yourself right now. And this story quietly controls your behavior. If you believe you are not disciplined, your mind will constantly look for evidence to prove that belief. If you believe you are someone who gives up easily, every setback will reinforce that identity. But here is the powerful truth. Identity is not fixed. It is built, and it is built through repeated actions. Think about how identity forms in everyday life. A person who reads every day eventually becomes a reader. A person who trains regularly becomes an athlete. A person who practices discipline becomes a disciplined individual. Notice something important here. The identity appears after the repeated behavior, not before. This is why many people struggle with change. They try to force new habits while holding on to the same identity. They say, I'm trying to be more disciplined. I'm trying to stay consistent. I'm trying to improve. The word trying reveals something. It means the identity has not changed yet. But disciplined individuals approach this differently. They begin building identity through small proof. Every small action becomes a vote for the person they want to become. When you wake up early and work on your goals, you cast a vote for being disciplined. When you read, instead of scrolling endlessly, you cast a vote for being focused. When you continue despite resistance, you cast a vote for being resilient. Each action strengthens the identity. One vote alone does not change who you are, but thousands of votes over time build a new story. Eventually, your mind stops saying, I'm trying to be disciplined. Instead, it says, I am disciplined. And when identity changes, behavior follows naturally, because people act in alignment with who they believe they are. Now imagine two people attempting the same habit. The first person says, I need to exercise. The second person says, I am someone who trains. The difference seems small, but the mindset is completely different. The first person debates the habit. The second person sees it as part of who they are. Identity removes negotiation, and this is one of the most powerful forms of discipline. You are not forcing yourself to act. You are expressing who you are becoming. Now here is a simple method to build identity-based discipline. Start extremely small, so small that the habit becomes impossible to ignore. 1 page of reading, 5 minutes of learning, 10 push-ups. These actions may seem insignificant, but remember something important. You are not performing them to change your results immediately. You are performing them to change your identity. Every time you follow through, your mind records the evidence. Evidence that the new identity is real. Evidence that you keep your promises. Evidence that you are becoming reliable. Over time, these small proofs create powerful self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Not loud confidence, not arrogance. Quiet confidence, the confidence that says, I know who I am becoming. Now imagine the long-term impact of this process. Every day you cast votes for discipline. Every day you reinforce focus. Every day you strengthen resilience. Months pass, years pass, and the identity becomes unshakable. You no longer depend on motivation. You no longer debate your habits. You simply live according to the identity you have built. And this is where the real transformation happens. Because the most powerful change in life is not external success. It is internal stability. The stability of knowing you can rely on yourself. But even with strong identity, discipline faces another challenge: burnout. When effort feels exhausting, when routines begin feeling heavy, when motivation disappears completely. Many people abandon their habits at this stage, not because they lack discipline, but because they do not understand the importance of balance. In the next chapter, we will explore sustainable discipline, how to stay consistent without burning out, how to maintain progress while protecting your energy, and why rest is not the enemy of discipline, but a necessary part of it. Because the goal of discipline is not exhaustion. It is long-term growth. Part 11, Sustainable Discipline. Why Rest and Balance protect long-term consistency. There is a moment that appears after discipline has been practiced for a while. At first, everything feels powerful. You wake up early, you follow your routines, you show up every day. Progress begins, confidence grows. But eventually, something changes. The energy that once felt exciting begins to feel heavy. The habits that once felt empowering start feeling exhausting, and a quiet thought appears, maybe I need a break. This moment confuses many people. They believe discipline means pushing endlessly, working harder, doing more, never stopping. But this belief leads directly to burnout. And burnout is one of the most dangerous enemies of consistency. Because once exhaustion appears, people often abandon their habits completely. The key to long-term discipline is not endless effort. It is sustainable effort. Think about professional athletes. They train intensely, but they also rest intentionally. Recovery is not weakness. Recovery is part of the system. Without recovery, performance collapses. The same principle applies to your mental discipline. If you try to operate at maximum intensity every day, your energy will eventually break down. But if you create rhythms of effort and recovery, discipline becomes sustainable. Instead of thinking, I must always do more, begin thinking, how can I stay consistent for years? Because the goal of discipline is not short bursts of productivity. The goal is lifelong progress. And lifelong progress requires balance. Balance does not mean laziness. It means intelligent pacing. Some days will require deep focus, long sessions of work, serious effort. Other days will require lighter effort, short sessions, small steps. Both days count. Because consistency is about maintaining forward movement, not about exhausting yourself. Now here is another important idea. Discipline becomes sustainable when you learn to enjoy the process. Many people treat discipline like punishment, something they must endure, something they must force themselves through. But disciplined individuals discover a different mindset. They begin appreciating the process itself, the quiet focus of daily effort, the satisfaction of keeping promises, the rhythm of progress. They stop chasing only outcomes. Instead, they learn to value the journey. This shift is powerful because when you enjoy the process, discipline becomes easier to maintain. Now imagine two people pursuing the same goal. The first person only cares about results. If progress is slow, they become frustrated. If outcomes are delayed, they lose motivation. The second person appreciates the process. They enjoy learning, they value the daily work, they celebrate small improvements. Who will stay consistent longer? The answer is obvious, the one who respects the journey, because success rarely arrives quickly. It grows gradually, which means the process becomes your daily life. And if you cannot enjoy the process, discipline will always feel like suffering. Now let us talk about rest. Rest is often misunderstood. Some people believe rest means laziness, but true rest is strategic. It allows your mind to recover, your creativity to reset, your energy to rebuild. Without rest, your performance declines, your focus weakens, your motivation disappears. But with intentional recovery, discipline remains strong. So the real question becomes, how do you balance effort and recovery? Start by listening to your energy cycles. Some hours of the day are naturally more productive. Use those hours for your most important work. During lower energy periods, allow yourself lighter tasks or rest. This rhythm protects your consistency. Another powerful method is scheduled breaks. Short pauses during long work sessions improve focus. They prevent mental fatigue. They refresh your attention. Think of these breaks as sharpening the tool. You are not stopping progress. You are protecting it. And finally, remember this principle. Rest is not quitting. Rest is preparation. When used wisely, rest strengthens discipline. It ensures that tomorrow you can show up again, and again, and again. Because the true power of discipline lies not in extreme effort, but in long-term consistency. Now that we understand sustainable discipline, we must explore something even deeper: the long-term impact of small steps. Because when you combine consistency with patience, something extraordinary happens. Your life begins changing in ways you could not have imagined. In the next chapter, we will explore the long horizon of discipline, why patience is the secret ingredient behind every extraordinary achievement, and how the smallest daily actions can quietly transform the next decade of your life. Because the most powerful changes rarely happen in days. They happen in years. Part 12. The Long Game. Why patience is the hidden power of discipline. There is a quiet truth about success that most people never learn. They see the results, but they do not see the years behind them. They see the athlete winning a championship, but they do not see the mornings of training when no one was watching. They see the entrepreneur building a thriving company, but they do not see the years of learning, failure, and persistence. They see the confident person speaking with clarity and purpose, but they do not see the countless moments of self-doubt they overcame along the way, because real success grows slowly, almost invisibly, and that is why patience is one of the most powerful forms of discipline. Many people begin their journey with enthusiasm. They set goals, they build habits, they commit to change. But after a few weeks or months, they begin asking the same question: why isn't anything happening yet? Progress feels too slow. The results are not dramatic enough. The excitement fades, and slowly they abandon the process. But here is the reality. Transformation is slow in the beginning. The early stages of growth rarely look impressive. Your progress may feel invisible. Your improvements may seem small. But beneath the surface, something powerful is developing, just like a seed growing underground. The roots must form before the tree can rise, and discipline builds roots. Roots of character, roots of resilience, roots of self-trust. These roots are invisible at first, but once they are strong, growth accelerates. This is why patience separates those who succeed from those who quit. Successful individuals understand something important. They are not working only for today's results. They are working for the person they will become years from now. They play the long game. Now imagine two different approaches to life. The first person wants immediate results. If progress is slow, they change direction. If success takes time, they abandon the effort. Their path becomes scattered. They start many things, but finish very few. The second person commits to the long game. They accept slow progress. They trust the process. They continue building small habits every day. At first, their results appear similar to everyone else, but over time, something extraordinary happens. The compound effect begins working. The knowledge they accumulated begins connecting. The discipline they practiced becomes natural. The resilience they built allows them to overcome challenges others cannot handle. Years later, their life looks dramatically different. Not because of a single breakthrough, but because they stayed consistent long enough for progress to compound. This is why patience is so powerful. Patience allows discipline to do its work. Without patience, people quit before the transformation begins. Now, here's something fascinating about long-term discipline. When you stay consistent long enough, the journey becomes easier. The habits become automatic. The skills become natural. The effort that once felt difficult begins feeling effortless. But this only happens after time, which means patience is not passive. Patience is active commitment to the process. It means showing up when progress feels slow. It means trusting your habits even when results are invisible. It means believing in your future self. Because one day you will wake up and realize something remarkable. The person you once imagined becoming is now the person you are. And that realization comes from years of small, disciplined steps. But there is one more important element in the journey of consistent discipline: courage. Because progress often requires stepping beyond what feels comfortable, beyond what feels safe. And courage is what allows you to take those steps. In the next chapter, we will explore the relationship between courage and discipline. Why growth always lives just outside your comfort zone. And how small acts of courage can unlock a completely new version of your life. Because the next step in your journey is not just about consistency, it is about the courage to keep moving forward. Dear viewers, write which city you're from. It's interesting to see which corners of the world are watching our videos. Part 13, the courage to step forward. Why growth lives beyond comfort. There is a line that appears in every person's life, an invisible line. On one side of the line is comfort, familiar routines, predictable choices, safe decisions. On the other side of the line is growth, new challenges, uncertain outcomes, uncomfortable progress. Most people spend their lives standing safely on the comfortable side, not because they lack dreams, but because crossing that line requires courage, and courage always feels uncomfortable. Imagine a young athlete stepping onto the field for the first time. Their heart races. Their mind fills with doubt. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? But every champion has faced that moment. Every successful person has stood at that same line, the line between safety and growth. The difference is simple. Some people step forward, others step back. And discipline plays a crucial role in that moment. Because courage does not always feel like bravery. Most of the time, courage feels like hesitation followed by action. It feels like taking the step even while your mind whispers doubts. Now, here is something important to understand. Courage is not the absence of fear. Fear is natural. Fear protects us from danger. But growth requires moving forward despite that fear. Think about the first time you tried something difficult, learning a new skill, speaking in front of others, starting a new project. At first, everything felt uncomfortable. Your mind searched for reasons to avoid it. But every time you faced the discomfort, something changed. Your confidence grew. Your abilities improved. And the once intimidating challenge became manageable. This is how courage develops. Not through dramatic acts, through small steps taken repeatedly. Each step expands your comfort zone. Each step makes the next challenge easier. Over time, the life that once felt intimidating becomes your normal reality. Now imagine a life where you always stay within your comfort zone, where every decision avoids risk, where every challenge is postponed. At first, it feels safe, but over time, something begins to happen. Regret appears, because deep inside, you know you are capable of more. Comfort protects you from fear, but it also protects you from growth, which is why disciplined people train themselves to step beyond comfort regularly, not recklessly, but intentionally. They understand that progress requires tension, just like muscles grow through resistance. Character grows through challenge. Now consider something powerful. Your life will always contain difficulties. Problems will appear. Unexpected obstacles will emerge. But when you develop the courage to face discomfort regularly, those challenges stop feeling overwhelming. They become opportunities. Opportunities to strengthen your resilience. Opportunities to prove your discipline. Opportunities to become stronger than yesterday. This is why courage and discipline are deeply connected. Discipline gives you the strength to act. Courage gives you the willingness to begin. Together, they create momentum, and momentum changes lives. But courage alone is not enough, because even courageous individuals sometimes feel discouraged. Sometimes they lose direction. Sometimes they question their progress. And in those moments, something becomes incredibly important. Perspective, the ability to step back and see the bigger picture. In the next chapter, we will explore how perspective protects your discipline, how looking at your life from a wider view can restore motivation and clarity, and why remembering the bigger picture can help you continue when the journey feels overwhelming. Because sometimes all you need to move forward is to see your path more clearly. Part 14. The Power of Perspective, Seeing the Bigger Picture. When the journey feels heavy, there will be moments on your journey when discipline feels difficult, moments when progress feels slow, moments when your effort seems invisible. In those moments, many people begin questioning themselves. Is this worth it? Am I really moving forward? Maybe this isn't working. These thoughts are normal, but they appear for one simple reason. You are looking too closely at the present moment. When you stand too close to a painting, you cannot see the full picture. All you see are scattered brush strokes. But when you step back, something beautiful appears. The same is true for your life. When you focus only on today's results, progress can feel small. But when you step back and observe the months, the years, the patterns, the transformation becomes clear. Perspective reminds you that growth takes time. Think about the last 5 years of your life. The person you were then is not exactly the person you are today. Your experiences shaped you. Your challenges strengthened you. Your lessons changed the way you see the world. Most of that change did not happen in dramatic moments. It happened slowly, through thousands of small experiences, and the discipline you practice today is shaping the person you will become tomorrow. Now imagine looking at your life from the perspective of 10 years in the future. The small effort you make today may seem insignificant, but in 10 years, that effort becomes part of your foundation. 10 minutes of reading every day becomes hundreds of books. Small acts of courage become confidence. Consistent discipline becomes mastery. Perspective allows you to see this long horizon. And when you see the horizon clearly, patience becomes easier. But there is another benefit to perspective. It reduces the emotional weight of temporary struggles. When you face a challenge, it often feels overwhelming in the moment. Your mind zooms in on the difficulty. But when you step back, you realize something important. Most challenges are temporary. Most obstacles are simply moments in a much longer journey. One difficult day does not define your life. One mistake does not erase your progress. One setback does not destroy your potential. Perspective helps you remember this. It reminds you that life is not about individual moments. It is about direction. As long as your direction is forward, progress continues. Now imagine two people facing the same challenge. The first person focuses only on the problem. They feel overwhelmed. They believe the obstacle is too large. The second person steps back. They look at the bigger picture. They see the challenge as a small part of a much larger journey. Who do you think continues moving forward? Perspective creates resilience. It allows you to face difficulties without losing hope. It allows you to see challenges as part of growth. And it allows you to maintain discipline even during difficult seasons. But perspective alone is not enough, because the path of discipline is long, and sometimes the mind becomes tired. Sometimes motivation fades. Sometimes the journey feels lonely. During those moments, one powerful force can restore your energy. Purpose. The reason behind everything you do. The deeper meaning that gives your discipline direction. In the next chapter, we will explore the importance of purpose, why discipline becomes easier when it is connected to something meaningful, and how discovering your deeper why can fuel your consistency for years. Because when your discipline is connected to purpose, giving up becomes far less likely. Part 15. The Fuel of Purpose. Why knowing your why changes everything. There comes a moment in every journey of discipline where effort alone is not enough. You wake up tired. Your energy is low. Your mind begins asking difficult questions. Why am I doing this? When that question appears, something powerful is being tested. Your purpose. Because discipline without purpose eventually feels like punishment. You push yourself. You force routines. You repeat habits. But if there is no deeper meaning behind your effort, motivation slowly fades. Purpose changes that. Purpose gives discipline direction. Purpose gives effort meaning. Purpose reminds you why the struggle matters. Imagine building a house with no idea who will live in it. The work would feel empty. But imagine building a home for your family. Suddenly, every brick matters. Every effort becomes meaningful. Purpose transforms effort into commitment. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself something honest. Why do you want to grow? Why do you want discipline? Why do you want to improve your life? Maybe it is freedom. Maybe it is providing for people you care about. Maybe it is proving to yourself that you are capable of more. Your reason does not need to impress anyone else. It only needs to matter to you. Because when your why is strong enough, discipline becomes easier. Not easy, but easier. Think about people who overcome extraordinary challenges, athletes who train for years, entrepreneurs who face failure repeatedly, individuals who rebuild their lives after setbacks. They do not continue because it is easy. They continue because their purpose is stronger than their discomfort. Purpose becomes the anchor during difficult moments. When motivation disappears, purpose remains. Now, imagine two people waking up early to work on their goals. The first person does it because they feel they should. The second person does it because they are building a life that matters deeply to them. The actions look identical, but the internal experience is completely different. One feels forced, the other feels driven. Purpose turns discipline into devotion. Now here is something interesting. Purpose does not always appear fully formed. Many people wait for clarity before beginning, but clarity often appears after action. The more you explore, and the more you learn about what matters to you, the more you practice discipline, the clearer your direction becomes. So do not wait for perfect purpose. Begin moving. Purpose will reveal itself along the way. Now imagine your life 10 years from today. What kind of person do you want to be? Disciplined? Focused? Reliable? Imagine the pride of knowing you built that version of yourself through daily effort. That vision becomes powerful fuel. It reminds you that every small habit contributes to a meaningful future. Now, there is another powerful effect of purpose. It makes sacrifice meaningful, because discipline always requires trade-offs. You choose focus over distraction. You choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. Without purpose, those sacrifices feel painful. But with purpose, they feel purposeful. They become investments in the life you are building. Now imagine every habit as a step toward that future. Every time you show up, you move closer. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen your direction. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. And that trust becomes the foundation of confidence. But the journey of discipline is not meant to be walked alone. Another powerful force strengthens your consistency. Community. The people around you, the voices you listen to, the environments you place yourself in. Because humans are deeply influenced by the people they spend time with. In the next chapter, we will explore the hidden power of community. How the people around you influence your discipline. Why your environment shapes your habits more than you realize. And how surrounding yourself with the right energy can accelerate your transformation. Because sometimes the fastest way to grow is to grow together. Hang on a sec. Hey there, dear viewers. Write in the comments what you'd like us to talk about in the next video. We promise to read all the comments and pick the best and most relevant topics. Thanks. Part 16, The Power of Community. Why the people around you shape your discipline. No one builds discipline completely alone. It may feel like a personal journey. Your habits, your routines, your daily effort. But the truth is deeper than that. The people around you quietly influence your behavior more than you realize. Their attitudes, their expectations, their habits. All of it shapes the environment in which you grow. Think about this for a moment. If you spend time with people who constantly complain, negativity begins feeling normal. If you spend time with people who avoid effort, procrastination begins feeling acceptable. But if you spend time with people who are disciplined, focused, and committed to growth, something powerful happens. Their energy influences you. Their standards raise your own. Their mindset expands what you believe is possible. Humans naturally adapt to their surroundings. It is part of our nature. We observe, we imitate, we absorb the behaviors of those around us. This is why athletes train together, why entrepreneurs form communities, why artists collaborate. Growth becomes easier when it is supported by shared discipline. Now imagine two different environments. In the first environment, the people around you constantly delay their goals. They avoid challenges. They believe improvement is unrealistic. Slowly, that belief begins influencing your own mindset. In the second environment, people take action. They read, they learn, they push themselves. Suddenly, discipline becomes normal. Progress becomes part of everyday conversation. Which environment do you think encourages growth? The answer is obvious. This does not mean you must abandon the people in your life, but it does mean You must be intentional about the voices you listen to, the books you read, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in. All of these shape your thinking, and thinking shapes behavior. Now here is an important shift. Instead of asking, who supports my comfort? Ask, who supports my growth? Growth-supporting environments challenge you. They encourage improvement. They celebrate discipline. They push you to become better. Now imagine surrounding yourself with people who expect consistency, people who believe in long-term progress, people who show up every day. Their presence alone changes your behavior. Now, before we close this audiobook, I want to ask you something important. What is the smallest step you can take right now? Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Maybe it is reading another page. Maybe it is writing down a goal. Maybe it is starting the habit you have been postponing. Whatever it is, take that step. Because the moment you move forward, the journey begins. And remember this one final sentence, a sentence that captures the entire spirit of this audiobook. Great lives are not built through giant leaps. They are built through small steps, taken consistently. If this audiobook resonated with you, take a moment to like the video as a promise to yourself that you will begin applying what you learned. And in the comments, share one small habit you are committing to starting today. Your commitment might inspire someone else who is standing at the beginning of their own journey. And if you want to continue exploring powerful ideas about discipline, mindset, and personal growth, subscribe so you can stay connected with future audiobooks that support your transformation. Because your journey does not end here. In many ways, it is only beginning. And the next step is waiting for you.